All right, today we are diving deep into the Treta Yuga. This is the second great cosmic age, and let me tell you, it's not an era of pure, simple light. Oh no, this is the age of silver and shadow, a time when virtue itself can become a weapon, and sacrifice, well, sacrifice becomes the currency of power. Let's get into the incredible stories of this complex and absolutely fascinating time. So, the perfect age, the Satya Yuga, it didn't just end with a big bang, it was more like a slow, shimmering fade. That absolute, simple truth that defined the first age, it started to give way to something a lot more complex, way more ambitious, and, ultimately, a lot more human. And at the very heart of this huge shift is this new quality called rajas. Think of it as the energy of passion, of doing. It's that fire inside that drives us to build, to create, to achieve. But there's a catch, isn't there? Because with doing comes wanting. And with wanting, well, that's when the ego starts to creep in. And that one quality, that single change, it changes everything. So how do we even keep score of the universe's health? Well, there's this incredible metaphor for it, the bull of Dharma. Back in the golden Satya Yuga, this bull was rock solid. It stood perfectly balanced on 4 legs: truth, purity, compassion, and charity. The cosmic order was stable, perfect. But with the rise of rajas, the whole world just tilts. That leg of absolute internal purity, it buckles, it gives away. And now the bull of Dharma is standing on only 3 legs. For the first time, the universe is fundamentally out of balance. And this instability, believe me, it sets the stage for our first great cosmic crisis. So this imbalance leads us to our first cosmic problem. And what's fascinating is that it's not a story about some great demon. It's a story about a king whose virtue was so massive, so overwhelming, that it literally pushed the gods out of their own heaven. How is that even possible? Well, it points to this massive shift. Virtue wasn't just about being good anymore. It became about doing good, and doing it loudly, publicly. And King Bali, he was the absolute master of this. He performed so many rituals, so many public acts of charity, that he basically accumulated enough merit points to conquer the heavens. He displaced the gods not with violence, but with an over-the-top excess of his own goodness. And this gets us right to the central problem, doesn't it? Bali's goodness was so huge, it created an ego that left no room for the divine. His perfect kingdom had become this gilded cage, trapping everyone in a purely material view of righteousness. So, the big question is, how do you defeat an enemy whose only crime is being too good? The divine response is just a beautiful cosmic masterstroke. Vishnu appears as a tiny dwarf named Vamana, asking for only as much land as he can cover in 3 little steps. King Bali, proud and magnanimous, agrees. And then, Vamana expands to his cosmic form. His first step covers the entire earth. His second covers all the heavens. For the third step, there's nowhere left to go. So Bali, realizing his own ego was the final frontier, offers his own head. Now, this wasn't really a punishment. It was actually a reward for his integrity. He was given dominion over the underworld, a realm where his powerful ego could rule without unbalancing the heavens. But, as seems to be the theme of this age, solving one problem immediately creates another. With the supreme emperor Bali out of the picture, a massive power vacuum opens up on Earth. And the warrior kings, the Kshatriyas, they're suddenly unchecked. Their ambition, now totally supercharged by all that Rajas energy, quickly spirals into brutal, outright tyranny. And this injustice just escalates so fast. A tyrant king steals a sacred cow, a huge sacrilege. That act leads directly to the murder of a peaceful sage. And the sage's wife, Renuka, cries out in her grief 21 times. And you need to remember that number because each one of those cries is a demand for justice that will be answered with terrifying force. You see, that sage had a son, Parashurama. He's an avatar of Vishnu, and his very personal grief over his father's murder and his mother's suffering gets transformed. It becomes a divine mission to purge the world of this arrogant warrior caste that had completely forgotten its duty. The scale of his response is just mind-blowing. To answer his mother's 21 cries, he circles the entire globe 21 times, systematically eliminating the corrupt warrior caste. It's a vision of justice so absolute and so violent that it leaves the world utterly leaderless and bleeding. So, the cosmic pendulum has swung from one extreme, a king who is too virtuous, all the way to the other, a caste that was far too violent. The world is now desperate for balance. It needs a new kind of hero, a king who could rule with perfect adherence to Dharma, the ideal man. The world needed Rama. And his story is, of course, one of the world's truly great epics. He's cheated of his throne, but he accepts a 14-year exile to uphold his father's honor. His wife Sita is kidnapped by the demon king Ravana, which kicks off a desperate search, a grand alliance with an army of monkey men, and a cataclysmic war to win her back. But even in this epic story, the Silver Age shows its cracks. To secure a key alliance, Rama kills the Monkey King Vali from a hiding spot. And Vali's dying question just hangs in the air. Is this the behavior of an ideal man? It shows that in this declining age, even a perfect hero sometimes has to make some very messy compromises for the greater good. After he wins the war and returns as king, Rama faces an even tougher challenge. He overhears a common citizen, a washerman, casting doubt on Queen Sita's purity after she was held captive. It's just a whisper, but it reveals the impossible standard he's being held to. His own people expect a kind of perfection that real life just can't offer. And this leads to the most tragic part of the whole story. The very ideal that Rama embodies forces him into choices that are going to leave deep, permanent scars. That citizen's whisper forces an impossible choice on him. To maintain the people's faith, the king must be above all suspicion. But as a husband, he's supposed to trust and protect his wife. He is forced to choose between his public duty and his private love, a choice between being a king and just being Rama. And Rama chooses the crown. He exiles a pregnant Sita to the forest. Years later, their sons unknowingly reunite with their father by singing his own life story back to him. When Rama summons Sita back to court, he asks her to undergo yet another public trial to prove her purity for the people. But Sita, she has sacrificed enough. She is done. Instead of facing another trial, she turns to her mother, the earth. The ground literally opens up and takes her back. She chooses to leave a world whose demands for perfection have just become completely unbearable. With Sita's departure, the light of the Treta Yuga truly, finally fades. The cosmic order declines even further. That ball of Dharma, already unstable, lifts another leg from the ground. The age of ideals, of sacrifice, and grand, righteous gestures, it's over. It's spent. And that leaves us with a pretty fascinating question. The Treta Yuga tried to solve its problems with an ideal man, but even he couldn't stop the decline. So as the world gets even darker, even more complex, what kind of hero does it need next? Maybe not an idealist. Maybe what the world needs now is a divine strategist.